Bonjour.
Bonjour à tous. Pour tous ceux qui sont à distance, je vous mettais un petit message sur le chat. Donc merci à vous d'être là. Nous, on est prêts côté Enjmin. On attend malgré tout quelques jurys encore. Il y a des trains qui sont arrivés, mais donc on attend que les personnes arrivent. Ils nous rejoignent ici et dès que nous sommes prêts, on vous fait signe et on lancera. Et on passera à l'anglais. Donc merci à vous d'être là. Good morning, everyone. We are about to start. So sorry for the little delay, but we are almost all settled in the amphitheater now. So just for letting the last people coming. In the meantime, I will give you some words. So first of all, welcome to everyone to the first oral presentation of our second year project of the master for the cohort P18. So as I said, I will give you some words about the M2 projects. These projects are held by 6 teams that are organized as studio containing 9 to 12 students. You have representative of each specialties of the school, and they are working on the conception and pre-production of a game. So we're gonna have 6 games presented today, and for the 2 following meetings as well. So 3 this morning, called Trust, Spike, What's the Tea? And 3 this afternoon, Project Isaline, The Solo Show, and Death of Internet. So these projects are held during 4 months. So they have 4 months to deliver a vertical slice. And we have 3 meetings with a jury of professionals. We started in the 3rd of October, so 1.5 months ago. That's where they are. And there's 2.5 months to go left till the final presentation that will be done in the 3rd of February to give you an idea to where they are. So it's a work in progress. As I was speaking of the jury of professionals, we really want to thank you all to be there, either here in the amphitheater or online. So thank you to you all. You are representative of the diversity of the video game industry, and we are really grateful that you're here. Your feedbacks will be of high value to the students. So please don't hesitate to share any feedbacks, any question that you have concerning the projects. And it would be very useful for the students to exchange with you on their ideas and work. We will ask you as well to complete the evaluation file. So I think you all received the link. Do not hesitate to tell us if you have problems connecting to the file. And I would ask you to fulfill it as soon as possible so the teams can also use the feedbacks you will give them. I have to add that you will have time at lunch and time at the end of the day to exchange directly with the teams also on the Plateau Projet, where they are working here at the school. And talking about the jury, I also want to welcome our godmother, the godmother of this P18 cohort. So thank you, Salome, Salome Strapazon, who is Associate Art Director at Ubisoft Bordeaux, to have accepted to be the godmother of this cohort. And I would like to ask you to give some words, maybe, to start this day.
Good morning, everybody. So, you hear me well? Yes. So yes, I am the godmother of the master students, M2 master 2 students this year. So I'm very glad. It's an honor for me. So thank you for that. Today you're going to present your first oral presentation. So maybe it's going to be a bit stressful. Don't worry about that. I had a quick overview of the first draft yesterday because I am the godmother. And what I said, I was very surprised by the diversity of the subject you choose. And I was, it really triggered my curiosity. So I'm really looking forward to know more about them. So I'm really interested. We'd like to add a few words. So maybe you probably have worked a lot on now, just because to find the best idea for your project. Maybe you really work to try to have something new, to propose something different and original. And maybe you find it a bit difficult. It's a kind of exercise. You know, it's part of the job. And maybe at some point we went to the conclusion that everything has been made, everything has been already invented and created. But, you know, of course, the creation is difficult and it's a vast topic. But I think even if it's difficult to propose new things, even in video game industry, if, of course, you won't probably invent or find a new color or new shape, you know, I think it's not going to be possible. But I think if lots of things have been already made, not everything has been said, so it is very important. Your voice, your own voice is very unique, and this is what is important. There is as many different things to say as there is human beings, so your place is here, and you will be able to propose something new as soon as you express yourself with the video game. It's a huge way of expression, so embrace it. So for today and for after, I will say believe on yourself, believe on your teammates as well. Be very, I just say that, embrace your difference, enjoy it, that you are all different, make the most of that, and you will have the good materials to propose something new in the industry. So now I think it's time for us to hear your own voice. So good luck, thanks in advance for the presentation, and have fun doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Salome. So let's go, 6 teams, 6 games. You will have 10 to 15 minutes of presentation and about 30 minutes of exchange after that. So let's start with the first project called Trust. Please, a round of applause for encouragement.
In the near future, humanity is rapidly weakening. People have trouble reproducing, and sicknesses are way more common and dangerous. To prevent this situation from getting worse, a private laboratory named Medora decided to fund a research led by 4 people in a rehabilitated polar station. One day, one of them is found dead. The consequences make it obvious that it is a murder. But it is a close-quarter facility. Doubts start to arise as all 3 remaining scientists investigate on one another. But who did it? Does the station hold more mystery than they thought? And you, what would you do if mankind's destiny was in your hands?
If you like one-player games, if you have a PC, if you enjoy following and having a strong impact on an intense narration like in Disco Elysium, if you appreciate exploring your environment like in Silent Hill 2, and gaze your eyes on amazing cinematics like in Control, you might want to lend us an ear.
Cultures is a game that questions your ethics. The path you choose to walk in entirely yours, and none of the multiple endings is canonically good. You might see the one side of the story during your first playthrough, but we highly recommend you to replay it, because remember, in that order to decide the future of the characters, it's important for you to discover what happens.
Dan is dead. The gynecologist of the team was found murdered in his room. Why did he die? And who did it? It could be Azima, the genius biologist who is betting a career on the success of the mission. Or was it Eden, the creative tinkerer on the verge of revolutionizing quantum computing? Or maybe it was Kyle, the explorer, obsessed by myths and legends, who just so happens to be part of Madora, the private laboratory financing the research. As Culturist is an investigation game, we will pay a very close attention to the character's expression through the use of facial motion capture. Question them, play at them, and decide on what will they do. Here, you can appreciate the graphics you can expect in a game.
The facility is gigantic. Isolated in the middle of a polar circle, inspired by brutalism and Bauhaus movement, we wanted to set the place in a different timeline from ours, including gap between the retro design of the environment and the high technological development inside. There's a strong contrast between the purely functional, austere interior and the relaxation spaces. The important scale ratio also interested us to propose a feeling of loneliness to the player. We wanted an abnormally gigantic building compared to the size of the team of scientists, just like in the movie The Shining.
We'll use the sound to create a feeling of loneliness for the player by using contrast between noise and silence.
We take a lot of inspiration from movies, which is why the cameras are designed with a cinematic aspect in mind. The cameras will have multiple behaviors, multiple framings, and cinematics will receive a special care to reflect these aspects. In game, these angles and camera movement will emphasize the emotion of the characters and help the player to identify with them.
The game is segmented into chapters where you will get the opportunity to play as each one of the characters depending on the chapters. And as each chapter is unique, it is important for you to take care of them. As an example, Eden can open any door in the facility and lock them to any other characters. So if you lose her, you lose this ability. Because you can lose your characters. On wrong step and death will be at the corner. Some situation will put pressure on our scientists with dangerous outcomes that will lock and unlock potential paths.
During your game time, you will have to learn how events unfold and how you can act on them. Everything is clocked, going through according to a schedule. Think of Outer Worlds, but a little less complex and separated in chapters.
To help you on the investigation, you will have access to a mind map. So how does it work? Just like in Pathologic 2, it will mirror the thought of the character you currently play. You will be the one making the connection. So depending on how many thoughts you connect and how correctly you do it, you will have access to new clues to investigate Dan's death. How the player rely on the mind map. The mind map system is here to guide the player. They will be able to use the mind map to support their reflection. They can also choose not to, use it and investigate by themselves.
For the development and to achieve our project goals, we currently use AAA tools like Unreal Engine 5, Perforce, etc. We'll experiment the system of motion capture for the body and the face with the Wococo company. Moreover, we'll work with professional actors, which we'll cast and collaborate with. To finish, we would like to talk with scientists on their daily life in a polar station, so we'll contact Tara Polar Station team in the Arctic to get as close as possible to their lives, their feelings, and their experience. So, if you want a game that lets you embody all the characters, emphasize on a heavy narrative and the importance of your choices, we strongly recommend you to dive into the universe of Coltrust. Coltrust was imagined, designed, and presented by Baptiste, Charlotte, and Kaya as game designers, Yann, Antoine, and Anna as game artists, Etienne and Marc as programmers, Nadia for UX design, Dorian as sound designer, and myself as project manager. Thank you for your attention. We are now ready and willing to answer your questions.
Yeah, first question, David. If you can present yourself, each of the person will ask questions. Thank you.
Hello, I'm David Bowman. I'm the Studio Development Director at Creative Assembly in the UK. Very interesting project. I'm unclear on one thing. It would be the player journey. So if you could walk us through what you think the player's experience would be through the initial first portion of the game, that would be fantastic.
So we're currently working on that, but as you saw, that the player is able to choose multiple paths, so it's a huge work. We're working on it.
So you're allowed to play all three of the living scientists, right?
Actually, you will start at a point in the story,
Okay.
which is already set. And if you finish the game, you can actually go back to the beginning and eventually discover the past even further.
Okay.
So you will actually have to play all four of the scientists.
You play all four of them?
Yeah.
Okay. But I have to play more than once in order to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
Hello, I'm Marian. I'm from Ubisoft team in line design. So from what I understand, do you think about a player journey that is near to what we could find in Overboard, for example?
I haven't played Overboard, so I can't really answer that.
Okay.
But our main inspiration is Zero Escape.
Okay. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Alexandre Lutz. I'm a lead artist in Ubisoft Bordeaux. Good presentation overall. So congrats on that. For a first presentation, I think I would have appreciated to understand a bit more where you are coming from, what are your references better, and where, so we could understand better where you want to go. So like we saw some like prototype stuff, like for the mocap or some blockout for the environment and stuff. Those are great, and to be honest, it looks like a pretty cool prototype already. But for us, it's better to understand where you're coming from and where did you extract those influences, etc. You talked about like Bauhaus influence and brutalism. It's great, but like showing a bit more, like, you know, a picture worth 1,000 words. So yeah, that could have been better. And yeah, because right now, from what I understand, your game is heavily relying on narration, and that's great. So, like narrative designer, you will have a great amount of stuff to work on. So, warning on the scope as well. But for the artists, the amount of environmental storytelling that you will need to create to support the life in the Arctic station and stuff is going to be very important, and is going to sell the mood of your game, because you can go towards, I don't know, something that is heavy like The Thing, or you can go on a very like clean polar station, like, I don't know, something from Portal or whatever. So there are many different directions you can go, and I would like to know a little bit more about that, if that's possible.
The actual the current blocking view you already seen will be used in concept art, more detailed concept art in the future.
All right.
Thanks for your presentation. I have a question. In your presentation, you mentioned the pillars of your project. And I've noticed after that the pillars are the art direction, environment, characters. I think they are very useful. You can do a game without art direction, characters, and environment. So you really have to push your pillars. They have to be very clear. Your game has a very good potential to be something different. And those pillars, they have to represent what exactly you want to bring in that game, what is going to be always pushed in all the job of the game. So you really have to work on that, I think, to define more what are your pillars. I think it's very important. If you understand well.
Hello, I'm Mathieu Girard from Tactical Adventures. Congratulations on the presentation, and thank you. I have kind of a follow-up question on what the gentleman said on the left. You want to use Unreal 5 as a technology, and what I see on the character is something more stylized. So do you want to go for photorealistic on the rendering, something more stylized, which is not what Unreal is basically made for? So how do you expect to meet both hands on this topic?
The material used in the environment will be more. It's more about PBR materials, so very realistic, and the character. So maybe you want to.
Regarding characters, we decided to have a semi-realistic artistic direction, because as students, it is easier when about making the animation with motion capture. We want to avoid the uncanny valley, so I think it's safer for us to do that.
Hello, Aurélien, sound designer at Ubisoft Paris Mobile. Do you plan to have music? And what kind of music, if you plan so?
Yes, there will be two kinds of music. The first one is the intra-diegetic one. It will help to create empathy for the characters we are creating. So we will we will listen to what they can hear to in the game. And the second one will be more stressful and things like this. The goal to this extra-diegetic music will be to follow the narration. So it will depend. We will want to create a mood depending on what is the action of the scene or the chapter.
Nice. As you just said, I would love to hear some inspirations and reference to see where you want to go.
Okay.
Isaac, I think you have a question.
Yes, absolutely. I'm not the first one actually, but okay,
Oh,
thank you.
I saw you as the first one on my computer. Sorry.
Okay, no problem. Just don't want to skip the floor to somebody else. Thank you very much for this presentation. I'm head of department of the Science and the Language Information Department at UNIL. And I'm quite working on interactive fiction. So I'm really interested in your project. And I'm also really interested in the mind map system, but I know that another person will ask a question about that. So let me ask something about the replayability issues we have in that case, because as I hear you speaking about your project, you have something really ambitious and quite branching and expecting a lot from the players to redo the experience. And you had just a little info about the fact that you want to time it, but yeah, I will be quite delighted to hear maybe a little more on how do you think that you can push people really to play it a lot of times, because if I hear you well, we have to play it one time, then a second, and with 4 characters can be a lot. How can you manage to have people gripped until the end? Thank you.
We actually expect to rely on narration quite a lot. We want the player to be really curious about what happened and where he is. We really want to work on that. We're using actual science thesis right now to work on the storyline. Yeah, that's mostly this. We will try to have some gameplay mirroring this, but it's still in reflection.
Yeah, I would like to add something. I think there is a lot of information for the players to understand, to investigate downstairs, and especially the mind map system. The thing is, we are going to test it like multiple times to know what is working and what it's not, and changing things accordingly to what we saw during the tests.
Okay, maybe just a little follow-up question. For you, what is the entire time of the game? Is it, I mean, if I play through, it's 1 hour, it's 20 minutes, it's 10 minutes, because that can make a huge difference on the willing to really explore everything.
So like for one play, it should be around 15 minutes, but since we have the replayability parts, we can change to other characters and to play and investigate in a different perspective. So if player replace again with another route, and then they will need more time than 50 minutes to play once, but just one play is 50 minutes.
Yeah, so what Kaya explained is how a chapter goes. So it's 15 minutes per chapter, approximately. An entire playthrough could be like 2 hours, I think, maximum. With the replayability, it's probably, if we can do it well, 20 hours, but I think less, like 15 hours.
Thank you.
So Diane, sorry, I missed your question. So if you can ask your question now.
Yes, no problem. Hello, I'm Diane from ICO Partners. Thank you very much for the presentation. My main question was on the mind map mechanics. Can you please describe it a little further, because I'm not sure I understood it from the presentation.
Yes, of course. It's a mix of the mind map you have in Pathologics.
Okay.
Where you have the thoughts of the character you're playing as, and it's not really a direct indication. And we mix that with the Sherlock Holmes mind map, sorry, to have this effect of creating connections between things and having a conclusion to these connections.
Okay, thank you very much. Sorry, I'm having a few more questions. My other question is: are you using tools for the narration system and branching of the narrative? And do you have specific tools for that? Or
We considered using Twine or Yarn Spinner, but our programmers are actually making something. So I'm going to pass the microphone to a programmer.
So for now, the tools we use, we have some kind of insight with plugins that are on Unreal Engine that permit to make a dialogue. It permits to make a condition and other things like that, also portage. So it's a nice thing, but for the vertical slice will be other thing. For now, we are in thought about making a tools because it will be very time consuming to make to avoid some soft lock in the narration, etc. So I think it will be developed with the game designer in mind and straight to the point, but not make a fancy system to have all the case dealt with.
okay, and my last question was about, sorry, about the replayability, because you mentioned having while you were explaining the project, I was thinking a lot about 12 minutes when it's like in very small environments. Then I was trying to imagine doing that in a very this kind of timed. But basically, you have to do and redo some actions with replayability in a very big environment. And don't you fear that that's a lot of walking and time spent on just going from one point to another if it's very big?
So there will be puzzles and also different things for the player to explore, and because they also with the mind map system, they need to think of what things will lead to what ending, and then they need to decide where they should go or what achievement they need to finish in order to proceed to another path or another ending. So so it will definitely need more than one play to gather all the information or just to achieve another possibility, and then they can go to picture the whole story.
Okay, thank you very much.
If I can add something on that, we thought of this issue, so we suggest that the player is able to run slightly to gain time and not walking around the structure. And we also thought about the structure of the size of the structure. Yeah, so we thought of this issue.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Diane. I think, Mylène, you still have a question?
Okay, yeah, I do. Hello, my name is Mylène. I'm doing marketing in freelance. So my question will be, did you already thought about what you want to include in the demo vertical slice you have to produce at the end of the project? Because my fear is like the game rely on having several characters which can die and you have to do some replayability, but this can be a really big scope for demo. So did you already thought about that and how you will achieve this?
Yeah, we did. We think the vertical slice will not be acted like a demo. It will be more really a practical demonstration of what is possible. So there will be ellipses in time. We will let you play as Eden for a short while in a very close environment in her room. Then we will skip to another phase and have you play freely and exploring some part of the facility with one main objective.
Okay, so there will not be like the pillar to replace the same thing as a different person character, right?
There will be in the second part
Okay.
a thing where you can actually make different choices.
Okay. Thank you.
Hi, Laura, Head of Production at Playdigious. You mentioned different playable characters. Does player choose which character they start with? Do you impose it? How would this work?
It's been a subject we've been discussing a lot. At the moment, we are choosing for the player.
Okay.
Thank you. 2 more questions.
Hello, I'm Carl, audiolid at Dontnod. Thank you for the presentation. Since you're doing a very narrative-driven game, do you plan on doing a lot of cinematics and custom scripted events, or will you be relying on systemic dialogue and systemic cameras? And if you plan to do cinematics and scripted events, have you done a rough estimation?
It's a little bit of both. We will have cinematics scattered throughout the game, and we would like to have a little bit of systematic dialogues. It will depend on how we can scope the game, but the main priority will be cinematics.
So you plan on doing more more customs in cinematics than systemic
Yes.
things?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Alex again. So in the light of your answer and some of my colleagues' questions, I have another question for the artists. Actually, it's more like an advice. I think you should consider the polar station itself like the unplayable character of your game, because like in a story, you discover the depths of a character. And in your game, you need to discover the depths of the polar station, its mystery, and stuff like that. And for this to be believable, you need to think about what is the polar station goal, and if it's something to save humanity for global demographic failure, it needs to reflect the huge goal the scientists have in this station, and like think about the function of your polar station, what are the research that are in it, and maybe try to reflect this in the artistic direction of the station itself, the layout, the plan, etc. I think it will be very core to your game. So it's not just about the dialogues and stuff like that. You will have a huge role to play in it. So there, my 2 cents.
Thank you for the advice.
Hello, Philip from Guerrilla Games. Thanks for the presentation. I kind of got your pillars, the intense narrative and the kind of investigation thing, but how the mechanics for the investigation, the mechanics for the intense narrative, I got it through the Q&A bit, I guess, twines of dialogue choices, that kind of stuff. At some point I saw a gun. Will they be shooting? Maybe can you go into more of the kind of the main mechanics you want to push for your pillars?
It's kind of linked to the skills, and we haven't really defined the skills yet. There will be guns, yes. But how will you use it? We don't know yet.
Thank you all for your questions. We're gonna finish for now for this group, and let's applaud them. Thank you. Thank you, and let's invite the next group, which is Spike.
Okay, so hello everyone, and welcome to Spike's debut presentation. In Spike, you play as a very cute hedgehog with a feisty attitude. You are embarking on a journey across a post-apocalyptic land filled with monsters, junk, and a strange substance. Spike, our main character, is a tiny survivor of a strange mutation that confers him some very odd powers. Your main goal is to find out how and why you went through this transformation. You are on a quest for truth. So in short, Spike is a solo action adventure game in isometric 3D, in which you play as a hedgehog using their own spikes as a weapon. We want to create a challenging experience for our players, built around impactful combat that contrasts with a round, stylized world. Our animation is stop-motion inspired, allowing us to emphasize movements and have clear actions. The gameplay is centered around our characters' combat and movement abilities. The experience is interspersed by calm exploration, where you can learn some more about the world you're traveling through.
How does our game fit the market? Our target audience is made of core and hardcore gamers who are 15 years old and older. We specifically target players who are fond of hard challenges, but also enjoy cute and stylized universes. In some ways, you could say that our promises resemble those of Tunic, but what will set us apart is that we want the player to feel tense in every fight. Every encounter matters, every enemy is a serious threat to the fragile hedgehog you are.
Who do we play as? As we mentioned, you embody this cute little creature named Spike. Spike is not a normal hedgehog anymore, as his appearance and abilities have been altered. Indeed, during his mutation, 6 huge spikes began to grow on his back, shaping its unmistakable silhouette torn between the softness of his body and his sharp spikes. To strengthen the bond between Spike and the player, we rely on detailed Foley sounds. As Spike, we want you to feel really fragile, tiny, vulnerable, and resolved. We want you to encourage players, to be mindful of their moves and the things going on around them.
Where do we play? As Spike, we're going to explore a large urban world thanks. So, as Spike, we're going to explore a large urban world left to nature. Our adventure can stretch from peaceful forest to the dark corner of a gloomy supermarket. But at the center of this no man's land, a strange lab seems to heavily influence the wildlife in the area. Actually, a mysterious substance is spreading from this strange lab.
The substance has impacted the whole world, thus it has impacted its inhabitants. Some civilizations have emerged from this toxic chemical, others have decided to delay their fall by barricading themselves to avoid the corruption. Some travelers are trying to escape from their homeland, while others, blinded by power, are trying to find the source of the substance. It has already turned some of them into mutant creatures, but eventually all of them will be changed.
As Martin just talked about, you'll explore your surroundings. When you'll explore your surroundings, you'll cross some friendly inhabitants that will share their story with you. But you'll also cross paths with foes that might be a little bit more combative. On their journey, players' skills will be tested during these encounters, as well as in arena challenges and boss fights. Visiting landmarks sprinkled around the world will help to guide our players. These rest stops are memorable places filled with lore for them to discover. And all of this, and probably some more, will help them understand the world and help them progress
in their search for the truth. So we evolve in a round and textured world. We want to give a materiality to the environment by visual and sound texture, and some stop motion effect maybe. By this way, we want to feel like we're evolving in a toy world that we can touch and manipulate. This is also a soft post-apocalyptic universe between nature and waste. We embody a very small hedgehog, so we discover a very big world full of surprise. Indeed, by the scale change, we've got a new naive look at some object of the daily life lost in no man's land. It becomes a place of life, exploration, fight, but also a part of the story of this world.
When we venture into this world, we want the sound to represent the sense of scale of a little hedgehog facing a nature that is soothing, but also mysterious and dangerous. To that end, natural ambiences are made bigger by stretching and pitching them down. The music is directly integrated to the ambiences, playing jazz-inspired chords progressions spaced with silences and paced by little percussion lines when encountering an hostile presence.
Okay, it's better now. So how does it feel to fight? As you already know, there's a huge emphasis on challenges in our game. We want to challenge our player on fast decision making, spatial placements, precise timing, anticipation, and risk management. However, we do not want to challenge our player on complex input patterns. Our rule of thumb is that if we understand what the players meant to do, we have them doing it. We aim the controls to be tight and precise while being super fun to play. And finally, it is critical that our game feels fair. We use crystal clear signs and feedbacks to highlight informations and help player learn without any frustration.
The sound and visuals effects are crystal clear, impactful, and feedback-driven, but does not induce cognitive overload. It tries to give a sense of physical control over players' actions. The music of combat is tense, composed of DIY instruments and energetic jazz piano chords. The orchestration changes following the level of challenge as well as combat actions, giving insights, feedback, and reward to the player.
So now let's dive into our gameplay mechanics. First of all, you can throw your spikes to skewer enemies. So we don't want to challenge our players on their aim, but rather on their placement. We've therefore designed an aim assist system that helps the players hit their targets and make cool moves if they have the correct timing and relative placement to their target. But be warned, you only have you have to be mindful of the spikes you use because you've got a very limited number of them and you're absolutely harmless without them. You can get your spikes back by focusing. In order to do so, you'll have to find an opening in enemy attacks. Focusing spikes is a vulnerable affair. Going one at a time, you'll always be wanting to get that one extra spike back. Your moveset is expanded by 2 other skills. You can roll to dodge or impale enemies on your back. This is quite a risky move with a long recovery that opens you up to enemy attacks. And for our experienced players, the parry mechanics is a high risk, high reward. You can parry in a short time frame, and this will absorb damage. It creates offensive opportunities and moments to reload a few more spikes.
As we mentioned before, we need to build a really high quality character controller for this game. To reach this goal, I work hand in hand with the game designers and give them as many tools as possible to iterate quickly on our game mechanics. For example, we provide easily tweakable parameters that are meaningful to designers. This will also be really useful when it comes to playtesting, as we'll be able to do ENB testing and fine-tune our game parameter efficiently. We are also considering developing level design tools to build our world faster.
So now you know how you fight. Let's see who you fight against. We want to build a game with fine-tuned gameplay. For this, we need enemies that are really adapted to our character skill sets. But we also keep in mind that we'd like to build a coherent universe. That's why we decided that all of our enemies will come from a lab or a factory. They will also be mutants, allowing us a bigger freedom in the design of their patterns and their characterizations. We encounter these mobs in two main situations, either roaming in the nature freely, alone or in a small group, or in arenas where the player is challenged on their capacity to fight a larger number of mobs and on a more prolonged duration. Our intention with Spike is to challenge hardcore gamers. With this goal in mind, all encounters, even the smallest ones, must be an intense fight for the player. That is why we have a nearly full-time programmer on the AI behavior. Right behind me, you can see the first draft of the AI future behaviors. For our game to feel fair, we want to build strong but imperfect enemies that have their unique strengths and flaws. You could meet the same enemies several times throughout your experience, but bosses are unique. Each boss is associated to his own arena, has his own behavior, attacks, and movesets. This is where the most difficult challenges of our game lies.
So now that you have a clear overview of what our game is, you could wonder, what does the whole game look like? So our game world is made of multiple thematic zones that are linked together. This creates a non-linear experience that fosters exploration. But you can't do every zone in the order you want. To ensure that our game stays balanced, we use several bottlenecks to gate the player progression throughout. Our goal is to give a unique mood to each thematic zone, from a deserted convenience store with mushrooms going everywhere to a barrel of chemicals worshipped by some weird creatures, for example. In each thematic zone, you'll spend most of your time alternating between exploration and combat. You'll encounter enemies during your exploration, but will also be confronted to some more difficult challenges, such as we mentioned, arenas filled with monsters. And at the end of your exploration, you will find a tough boss to fight. This concludes the zone game loop, and you'll then be able to explore other areas in the world. To synthesize our game experience in a vertical slice, we decided that we would build one thematic zone of the whole game. It will represent a part of the game where all core mechanics have been introduced, but we don't know exactly when our vertical slice will happen in the whole user experience yet. But what we know is that for the vertical slice, we'd like to create a little world sprinkled with lore and hostilities, 2 or 3 arena encounters filled with unique mobs, and we want to end the slice with an epic boss fight.
As of now, we have built our first prototype in which you can move, aim, and shoot at targets. We have also implemented the critical AI foundation to build our enemy behaviors upon. Our next goal is to add Spike's model and animation as well as the first enemy. This will allow us to iterate as fast as possible on our game feel and our game challenges. So as a game designer, Amaury and Charlotte, as programmer, Tristan, Ilan, and Ludovic, as sound and music designer, Gabriel, as game artist, Astrid and Martin, user researcher and UX designer, Benoît,
and Liam in project management.
Finally, in order to help us with this ambitious project, we have recruited 3 extra artists, Hélène Malherbe, Raphaël Bourgueil, and Blanche Périsser. Thank you very much for your attention. We look forward to answering any question you might have. Thank you again.
Oh, a lot of hands raised. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Gaston, user researcher at Ubisoft Bordeaux. I had a question regarding one of your pillars. I have understood it was regarding the exploration. So for the whole presentation, I had the question like, is it a linear experience or more of like a soft open world with zones? So I guessed you answered that at the end. My question is, how are the zone unlocked, and what is the place of the exploration in the player's experience? Like, do we have environmental puzzles? Are the zone unlocked via the scenario or via abilities regarding the characters?
Yeah, so very good question. Our intention with the exploration is, first of all, to pace the whole experience. So we want it to be calm moments where the player can breathe a little bit between combats. For the question of how you unlock different zones, honestly, we aren't completely sure yet. But we know that we want the core abilities that we presented to you here to be present at the start. So it won't be like a Metroidvania thing where you unlock abilities and things like that. It might be more linked to completing arena challenges and boss fights, and that's how you unlock new zones.
Okay, thank you. And I didn't say it because I asked my question directly, but thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting. Thanks.
Thank you.
Mylène, if you want to go on, so I have the time to go to the next question.
Yeah, hello, my name is Mylène and I'm doing marketing as a freelancer. And the funny thing is I work on Fury. So I do have a question. Control will be super important for the game. And if I didn't miss anything, you would be on PC and talking about controller. For example, for Fury, 40% of our players play with keyboards and mouses. So did you also think about this or not yet?
Yeah, so we haven't put in place a strict control scheme for now, but we want the experience to be released on PC for sure. That's a very interesting statistic that you gave us. I had no idea, but we plan on working on control schemes that work with a controller and with mouse and keyboard as well, for sure.
Okay, like another thing, it's not really a question, but be careful. Having hardcore experience and cute visual is really hard to market. I know some games did it, like with Hollow Knight, etc. But to be honest, I also saw plenty of cases where it was actually difficult. I also work on Dofus, and this is one of the main issues to have cute and kawaii visual, but a really complicated game if you go through. And my last thing will be also do not scare to really go on only one thing. You say you want really nice combat and experiment. Why maybe not only focus on boss fight and also added other enemies, because it will allow you less time to work on bosses. So it probably be less nice as if you only focus on boss fights. So it's okay to take one pillar and say, okay, we will only do this because it's why we want to be really good at this one, and just forget the rest. So yeah.
Yeah, that's a great feedback. Thank you very much. We're definitely asking these questions at the moment and trying to prioritize our production depending on how the controller feels like. With our mechanics, it's quite fun when there's lots of things going around, so that's why we're kind of hesitating on whether to focus on the mobs on the boss fights. But yes, thank you very much for your feedback.
Welcome.
Hi again. So thank you for the presentation. It was it's more like a comment, but I think it was really straightforward. So I think you have a bunch of classical features to develop in that game, like health management, progression, enemies. So it's more like common, but I will encourage you to really focus on the really specific capacities of your character to make it really unique, because you will have a bunch of classical feature to design, but maybe the main selling point will remain your character and his or her or its ability at least. So, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Hello, Mathieu Girard from Tactical Adventures. Thank you for this exciting and comprehensive presentation. I have a question. Actually, I'm going to ask the exact opposite of Milan. Did you consider having interaction with the environment, for example, in exploration using the spike to solve puzzles, or in combat pushing stuff on the enemies, or using hate and stuff like that?
So yeah, I'll take this question again. I'm sorry. Yes, absolutely. So I forgot to answer your question about puzzles earlier, but we don't want puzzles. But we do have some environmental interactions planned. We want to, depending on how the arenas are going to be designed, we want maybe to have breakable pots and stuff like that that you'll break in order to strategize. And we want you to be able to roll into leaves and to have leaves on your back, because it's very cute. But yeah, so it's more about pushing the toy aspect of the game, where we want environmental interactions. There's also a thing that we haven't quite developed yet about this substance that's plaguing the whole world, and how it might affect your spikes if you roll through them. This is kind of like a projection issue, and we don't know if we'll have time to develop the things, but we're definitely thinking about it.
Hi, so I'm Cécile. I'm part of the sourcing team at Focus Entertainment. Thank you very much for this presentation. The project already has a lot of personality, which is great, with the art, like the music, the visuals you've showed. So that's great. Actually, most of my comments and questions have already been pretty raised by the other people here, but I think it does show that maybe right now you're talking to us about exploration, but it does not feel like it's rewarded in any way or encouraged. So yeah, like Mylène, I would think maybe if you don't have a clear vision of what you want to make with it, maybe it would be quicker to get it right now, or have something to make with it. And something else is, how do you plan your player progression?
Maybe I can answer this question.
Just to explain, we do have another game designer who is online. So go ahead, Amaury.
Okay. I think, in fact, that your two questions are linked because, like, the instant-to-instant gameplay exploration is made to count the experience, but I think it can be rewarded with our progression system, and this system is something that we haven't really designed yet. We have vague ideas of what it will be, but it's something we need to develop, and I think it will help us giving rewards to exploration.
Hey, Alex from Ubisoft. Thank you for the presentation. It was pretty clear. I think everyone understands where you are coming from. Still, I'm not sure where you want to go into the artistic direction. I heard a lot of different things that could be hard to mix up. I'm joining Mylène a little bit on it. But you mentioned something that can be a very good bond between all the things. It could be stop motion. It's a very interesting artistic choice, but it also impacts a lot potentially the artistic direction. Like if you're going for let's say a stylized 3D look, stop motion might look like bad frame rate. But you can play with it and to have an artistic direction that will be more connected to, let's say, your target audience, your gameplay, maybe the mood and the story you want to tell. I mean, stop motion, you think about like Phil Tippett or Tim Burton stuff, and like let's say the people who watch those movies are maybe a little bit older, a bit mature in the way they want to play. So it might be quite interesting to go that way. And like it's very handy tool to support heavy subject like, I don't know, like environmental damage and stuff like that. So are you considering like other art style, maybe even photogrammetry to look like it's in the real world, or this kind of stuff?
Yeah, photogrammetry is really interesting. We didn't thought about this, but really interesting. Actually, at the beginning, we wanted to make a full stop-motion game. But yeah, it's really hard for the scope and during 4 months to do that. So yeah, we said to ourselves, okay, we're gonna do in 3D with some steps to the animation to have it really clear, so to the attacks and stuff. But yeah, for the artistic direction, it's a really good point that you said. Maybe stop motion is going to be our bond between environment, the subject that we talk about, and yes, the overall artistic direction. But we again try to search, still searching for what it's going to look exactly.
Thank you.
Salome from Ubisoft. I have a question. You talk about at the very beginning that the Spike is looking for the truth and how and why is like that. And so how is going to find the truth? Because he's going to discover some new worlds, if I understand well. And he's going to fight a lot, but is he going to meet some other people? Is he going to have some other exchange to discover the truth? What is the climax at the end of the game? And sorry, I didn't say that, but your presentation was very clear and very complete. It's a pleasure to hear that. So, but if you can answer the question, it's cool.
I can answer if you want. Okay, so we don't have a clear narrative line to the game yet, and we didn't made narrative design on the game yet. We have world building, we have an idea of what the goal is. The thing is, we want to so that's that, and there's also interactions with the environment. So the whole world will have a lot of lore built in it that you can see in the exploration phases, and in those phases you'll also be able to meet and to cross the way of the world inhabitants. So this will lead to understand more what this world is about.
We've got some idea to a kind of climax, but the storyline is keep working. We keep working on, but we've got some idea with intention to, for example, accept this power and accept what the world is going on, accept the pollution and the state of the world. This just one idea, but we keep working on.
Hello, I'm Alexandre from ShareGame, a gameplay programmer. I have a question about the combat system and a comment after. Can you describe the speed of a combat? What do you think? It will be slow-paced, fast-paced, like more like Hollow Knight or Dead Cells?
Yes, so that's a good question. We're not exactly sure yet. We know we don't want it to be as slow as Dark Souls or stuff like that, but we definitely we don't want it either to be very fast-paced. So I mean, I guess it's kind of in the middle, which is not a great answer. I'm sorry, but I think what I can say is that we're working on the controller, and it's from there maybe that we'll find where it is nice to play and or not. Don't know if Amaury, you want to say things about this?
No, I agree with you.
Okay, cool.
So just a quick advice for you and programmers. It's a big challenge to make a combat system. I tried it when I was a student. It will take a lot of time, and the time you will need to polish it and to make it feel good to the player. You will definitely need to take this time. So as soon as you have a prototype, test it, let others test it, and you will need a lot of time.
The combat system is what we are focusing the most on right now. So.
Hello, I'm Sylvain, gameplay programmer from Ubisoft. First, I'd like to join everyone that talked before me that the presentation was very clear. We have a good idea where you want the game, what you want the game to be, and where you want the player to go. So great for that. I'll talk about a bit also about the combat. You said you wanted a hardcore experience in combat, focused on placement and skills, but you also talked about auto-aim. But the auto-aim mechanics tends to ease the combat, and if the player has a auto-aim mechanics, the skills and placements doesn't matter as much. So how will you work to have both mechanics in your game?
Okay, you go for it.
Okay, it could seem that it's a bit contradictory, but I think we use aim assist and those kind of help to ensure that we do not have challenges where we do not want challenges. And so with aim assist, for example, there is still a lot of challenges with decision making, with timing, anticipation, and reading the enemy movements and things like that. It's just that we want our game to feel good. And so when a player meant to do an action and it's a bit imprecise or something like that, we help them do it to feel a bit more powerful.
Yeah, just so I want to add something on that. We did an aim assist because our intention is not to challenge on that, but to challenge on other things and to clear that noise so we can challenge the players better on the things we said, so timing, anticipation, and placements and stuff like that.
Just another advice. I would recommend you just to try without aim assist, especially if the combat is not that fast-paced. In fact, just try and make it test to other people, and maybe there's some fine-tuning with the auto assist, aim assist. So just do some tests to be sure where you are going. Thank you.
So maybe it wasn't clear. I want to add a thing to this. It's that the aim assist isn't meant to be seen and visible to players. So it's a subtle help that won't be seen, and so we'll test out if it's needed or not. So advice, thank you.
It's Gaston again from Ubisoft. I had a question linked to this subject regarding the fight and the elements on which you want to challenge the player in terms of fight difficulty. Have you thought about adding some depth into the fight? I was thinking about some mechanics like perfect timing reload or perfect parry timing or things like that, like since you are making a game for ultra hardcore audience.
Yes, we definitely thought about it, but we kind of want to wait until we have the controller in our hands. But we're definitely thinking about it as well, and to offer maybe bigger opportunities to reload your spikes or to get a bit of distance between you and the enemies in these moments.
Okay, thank you.
Just to add a bit to that, so we might have to indeed test and try different mechanics to make the combat a bit deeper in terms of what you said. But we also want to encourage the hardcore player by, for example, the utilization of visual effects and also like interactive music, for example, based on if the player kills an enemy without getting touched X time and stuff like that, you like reward him a lot with his action. So there is also that we like the soft core players will have a good experience, and the hardcore players may want to like push their limits because they are going to be rewarded for it.
Thanks. Hello, Mathieu, associate producer at UB Bordeaux. First, thanks for your presentation. Maybe I missed the information, but for the vertical slice version, do you have an idea on how many different AI archetypes you want to have?
For now, we think that we will do one creature, maybe two, and we will focus on the boss fight as much as we can. So we will try one first monster foe to begin to test the controller, but next we will do the boss fight, and if we have time left, we will do other foe.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, on the combat, kind of echoing what somebody else said. It took me a while to get to the it's a kind of shootery thing. Maybe I didn't look twin sticked; it looked single sticked. But up until that moment, I heard parry and stuff, so I was expecting a melee game. And when you guys said, "Oh, we're challenging positioning and all that kind of stuff," like, okay, great timing and all that stuff, that's the melee game, right? Why go for aiming? You're removing a huge, potentially chunk of positioning there, because I can just shoot from a distance. And tied to that, I'm kind of curious of how you guys are thinking about parrying relative to a shooting game. Also, seemed to me like the enemies were, I mean, a really early like ball of a thing was chasing the player. So are you going for a bullet hell thing, or are you going for a dude with a big sword that hits the ground?
All right, so the first question was why we chose to take out the aiming part. So first of all, I want to clarify that there is. Okay. So, but we have.
You repeat the question.
Why? Okay. So the question was why don't we give the hedgehog a sword? Well, first of all, the fantasy of hedgehog pulling out his spikes and using that, we like that very much, and that's where the pitch kind of came from. I want to clarify that we do have melee combat with the roll ability, where you can go and roll on your enemies and squash them. I'm lost. I'm away. Or anyone.
So yeah, we haven't thought of positioning. Like it's, I think positioning is important for the raw attack, but we thought of positioning changes as to dodge enemies and to be able to defend oneself. That's about it, I think.
I want to steal our job, but there are like elements in the world that can stops your picks. Like for example, stones or small objects, and so sometimes the enemies can hide behind it. So it adds to the strategic thing and placement of getting like a range attack, because then you have to be even more strategic and aware of your surroundings to make the right decisions.
Yep, and I think you said something about the enemies chasing us. So that's because we are prototyping the first enemy behaviors, but we don't intend on having a mob of people chasing you in a bullet hell way in nature anyway.
Hello, I'm Lucille from Counting Dream. I'm an outsourcing producer, and I've got a questions not about combat. What can the hedgehog do during the exploration? Did he walk? Did he run? Can he jump? And if he can, I just want to be sure you are careful about motion, about the characters. You have a 4 legs characters, it can be very tricky.
So we can only walk in one, and I guess the wall also is a movement ability, but that's it. We want to stay away from any other movement ability for the hedgehog.
To continue on the movements, because it's the question, and that's why we used a very detailed Foley system. So to be clear about what it is, it's a very modular kind of system. So there are a lot of types of surfaces and maybe like objects on the surfaces, and like varying conditions, like is it wet or not, things like that. So it means that by we make sure that the movements are something very clear. Like we know when the hedgehog is running, we know when he's walking. We ensure that the animations, and maybe you can talk about it, are very like on point and tight. For example, like we trigger the footstep sounds only when the paws hit the ground, stuff like that. So yeah, maybe you can talk about the animation.
Yeah, actually, our goal is to be clear with the animation. What do you want to know clearly about animation exactly? What?
You're not kind with me. I have to jump back.
It was more about, yes, the footsteps are really important, but if you will have something like jumping, you need to have the head aiming as the player is aiming to. So yeah, just nail when the input is located on your animation in order to ease the player to feel the game itself.
Since the first day of the project, we know that animation is a great challenge for the production. So this is why we outsourcing the animation to someone, and the rig of the skeletons of the different foe and the character, in order to have a great animation and fulfill these problematics.
Thank you. So we will have the final question.
Hi, I'm Leonid. I'm from Paradox Interactive, and I'm a product manager. I have a production question for you. Can you explain to me the decision of investing time in a boss fight instead of, let's say, 2 more enemies that you could probably milk more value out of?
Since it's a vertical slice, we really think that a boss fight will show what our game can be in a full-scale production, because we're only 10 and we think that we don't have the time. It's not the exercise to do a full game, so we really want to show all we can do, and we think that a boss fight for the AI programming, it's really challenging. For a lot of things, it's very more challenging. So to show off what we can do in the game, we think that it's a better thing to do.
Yeah, if I could add something, it's just like that we can, don't know how you say this in English, soulever les incertitudes on the boss fight, because we've never really done this and we want to know what the process is to be able to go through it and to learn about with it.
Sounds very good. Thank you for the presentation. It was great.
Sorry, the very last question. Sorry.
I was lying, but for Salome, we make exceptions.
Okay, thanks you a lot. Just a question. So the hedgehog is going to be to progress during the game, fight after fight. So how do you think to showcase this progression? Is it, for example, is it going to change visually, or what did you think? Is it going to be maybe the strike more sharp, or is it going to be cutest and cutest? I don't know.
Good question. We don't know either, but we're going to figure it out soon.
Good luck for this project. It looks amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you, yes. Thanks to the team. So congrats to the team, and let's welcome the next team, which is What's the Tea? The last of this morning.
So hello everyone, and welcome to the first presentation of What's the Tea. Take a stroll down an island on your teapot bicycle and let yourself be guided through an ordinary outing by its inhabitants and your own curiosity. What's the Tea is an exploration game on a bicycle rhythm by gossips and tea breaks. We would see it as an experience that could be cut into 15 to 20-minute sessions, or that could be finished in a day, around 5 to 7 hours. But we would like the players to still be able to come back to it at the end of a stressful day, for example. What's the Tea is a game for PC, but down the path, we believe that it could be ported to other consoles, such as the Switch or even mobiles, with few adjustments to the gameplay, to really take advantage of the stress-free aspect of the game, and with shorter section to be able to play when commuting, for example. So, in terms of our intentions, we want to convey a feeling of tranquility when going around our world and have an exploration led by the player's curiosity. So no feeling of danger, but some micro-stress like getting lost, and a balance between introspection and extroversion.
So our objective is to create the game we want for the target we want. We have created one persona who represents our main character. One player is the objective to hand over the intention of a developer to the user in a more efficient way. We have something that we call a Garner bar, like you can see on the beautiful pics from Quantic Foundry. This is a profile who want to have a contemplative gameplay with a relaxing and no stressful environment, when these people can enjoy interaction with the environment and the characters he can find. And of course, this kind of player want to take his time during his game session.
So concerning the sound direction, we would have an approach of sound inspired by ASMR with the intention of designing a credible and pleasant dynamic environment that feels real, some sort of refuge that could heal the player and to which they could come back into without growing tired of it. So we would start from a base of real nature, and then we would enhance it with fantastic and surreal elements to build a contrasted and imperfect world. So the player might hear intimidating things such as thunder, like we can hear in Fallout 4. Oh. So maybe we won't hear it, I guess. Oh. So in Fallout 4, we have this intimidating atmosphere, but it's contrasted by the cicadas. So it creates like a sort of, it makes the player feel at ease, even though there's thunder. You're supposed to hear thunder, but since it's kind of laggy, I guess we won't hear it. So I guess we can skip it. So we will also have discrete music adapted to each spaces, would be made, and it would react to the action and the discoveries of the player. Since we might have a character depending on the choice we make for the vertical slice that would be a musician, we might also have genetic music. And we also like to reward the exploration with the discovery of new sounds such as animals and ambience.
Okay, for the visual art direction, our main objective is to convey a relaxing mood. For this, we'll try to build a stylized world with a very soft shape language and with a very colorful color palette. And we'll try to have as much surreal elements as possible to trigger the curiosity of the players. For the environment art, we'll start with a place that looks rather ordinary, that will become more and more interesting once we start exploring. For this, we'll have different biomes with different variations in each place. We'll play with the concept of gigantisms, playing with the scale of objects, taking the size out of the ordinary. And we'll try to convey this dreamlike atmosphere with the design of the plants we'll have there, and as I said before, having a more diverse color palette once we start exploring more and more.
What's the T will have a simple and stylized aesthetic. Therefore, we worked on a cell shader for the lighting in order that it fits the desired rendering. In the game, we will also have water, like rivers and lakes, but very realistic model of water would contrast with the rest of the game. So we are also working on a more stylized kind of water.
So how do our intention are transcribed to the level design? So the intention of tranquility would be transcribed into a nameless stroll without any external pressure. We want also the exploration to be led by curiosity, so we would be in an open world with landmarks and multiple paths and distraction on the way when leading to it. The micro-stress aspects in terms of level design would be that the level should allow the player to get lost, as it is part of the experience of a stroll to us. And the balance between introspection and extroversion would be to have open and enclosed areas.
Our main character is an explorer that doesn't know actually how to be an explorer. It's a rookie. It's its first time going out into the wild. So we wanted to convey this, like having its outfit and the props as very urban-like, and having this contrast with the environmental around.
So during the game, you're going to meet character and have tea with them on chance encounter, and we want those characters to be charismatic, somehow cliché, and to foster curiosity from the player. We want them to seem simple at first, but to gain more depth as being developed. That's all. For the game, we want to put emphasis on bike riding and collection, obviously, but still have a good third of the game for the chat, the gossip, and the team making that you see in the. So since the bike control is going to be central in the game, we started working on it to give tranquility to the player, a sense of life change. So we made the first prototype that relied on light pedaling simulation. You had to press a trigger to put momentum in your bike to make it advance. Thank you. And also we had a slope mechanic where going uphill you lost momentum, and going downhill you gained momentum, like in a slide in the playground. So we made the first prototype. It's like, it was a test. I'm not sure we're going to keep it for obvious like muscular fatigue, but that's the first test we made.
So, because our controller is really feeling related, like Leo said, we assemble a first prototype to test the feeling and the inertia of the bike, and to have the more near to the decision we want for the game. So for now, the prototype is here. For the controller, you have to alternate trigger to like when you pedal on a bike. Our idea was to really come close to a real bike experience, but it comes to be in contrast with the relaxed direction we want for What's Tea. So we will have to simplify it, or either to find a way to disable it for people that just want to ride a bike with the push of a button.
So in the game we want to have mainly have narrative content focus on gossip. We want to treat gossip as a collectible as much as a narrative content. So we want the player to collect gossip during a journey, and to be able to share it with character around a cup of tea to transform that gossip into something else. Gossip could be verified, amplified, counter in a way. We're not entirely sure yet, but the idea is to mimic that sense of thank you, that sense of téléphone arabe, to have the truth being deformed little by little by being shared. And when the gossip is transformed, you can like share it with someone else with a cup of tea, and to be transformed again. Thank you. We wanted to use gossip to reflect on the intent on curiosity, because gossip fosters curiosity. We want to, well, it's something you want to know. So, can you tap? Thank you. Gossip can be evolved in different directions depending on the tea you use, even if we're not completely clear on that. Thank you about that, and the character you share it with, and also to, well, can you go back? Thank you. We want the light manipulation for the tea making, for the tranquility part. And next slide, please. Thank you. The gossip system is going to be supported by a graph of character relationship that you're going to explore, and going to be unlocked little by little as you know more about, you learn more about the character relationship. And that's about it. Relationship could be yes, thank you, symmetrical or asymmetrical. Also, we want to tackle long-term progress in the game through a scrapbook. In-time and event encounter in the game can be added to your scrapbook, little by little, it's going to be a narrative of the player's journey as in the game world. And when the scrapbook, which is a limited content inventory in a way, is full, the game is going to end. So you have to choose carefully what you want to remember at each point. Thank you. And this is an example of the scrapbooking as it, well, it's on a placeholder, but that's it.
So, concerning the vertical slice, we would be at the beginning and middle of the game to have a base of gossip to share and to expand on. So we would begin by an exploration on the island, on your T-bicycle, on your own, and then take a break alone to do some scrapbooking and order all your infos. So next, we will go back to exploring and meet a character when going to a landmark. It could be like going around it, or just when going to it by taking a different path because you were distracted by something else. So then we would take a tea break with them to know what the tea is all about. So then we have sort of a gossip session and spill the tea. So give some infos like something juicy and go back to exploring with a brand new gossip to share. And then it would be the end.
So we want to talk to a bigger audience. We want the most of players can appreciate the experience we want to offer. So we're gonna set some accessibility features like a colorblind mode and a remapping option. And in the case of we have some dialogues, we're gonna create some caption for people who are deaf.
For the marketing part, we can define what the T as a wholesome, cute game centered around a relaxing adventure and exploration. According to this, target audience is players who have a taste for independent and solo games. We are aiming PC release and eventually Switch. Our target audience game habits indicate a console release and game aesthetic and mood seem to really lean with the Switch, so it could be interesting. And for the positioning in the market, we are targeting a balance between a linear experience and a more open ballade like Stardew Valley. But we are searching to focus more on exploration, like a short hike or Breath of the Wild. Thank you very much for your listening.
Thank you. First question. I'm coming.
Hi, so Cécile, I'm part of the sourcing team at Focus Entertainment. Thank you very much for the presentation. I really like the originality of the whole idea, and I have several questions. First, is this a reference to RuPaul's Drag Race in any ways? Second, just more of a remark on your marketing positioning. I think it's very, it was weird to me to see Minecraft and to not see Alba, Lake, or Dordogne, for instance. So just let us know that you do know your market. And just, so I have many questions. I will focus on one right now about the gossip, because to me it sounds like in real life, gossip is some kind of currency actually. Like you trade gossip and you choose who you're going to share gossip with, and you also choose the the emotional tonality you're going to give to something. For instance, you've heard a story, you can empathize with one or the other character. So do you intend on having some kind of choices in the way you present gossips to the other characters or not? Thank you.
For the gossip part, yes, very much. We want to have choices in the to be able to choose the character you share the gossip with, and also in some way the tonality you share it through the tea. We want the tea to be linked to sort of an emotional system, but we're still working on it.
And concerning the RuPaul's Drag Race question, I think the inspiration was quite like queer related, so I think it could be part of it. So yeah, it's quite queer.
And for the positioning question, I think Alba it's a really good reference, and we should add this further. For Minecraft, I think it's just to have a big example of what we mean for open world. So that's just a good reference for understanding the intention of the schema.
Hello, Alex from UB. Thank you for the presentation. It was pretty nice, and like it looks peaceful, and it's quite changing. In those times, it feels nice to see some like quiet games that feels nice to play. So I have a remark and a small warning on the art side. I don't mind stylized at all. I don't want you to fall in a trap. Stylized doesn't mean low polygon, doesn't mean low resolution, doesn't mean bad quality, because you're hiding stuff with cel shading or with like tech tricks or this kind of stuff. You're gonna be on the professional market tomorrow, and know that the industry has some kind of standards in every kind of industry, from indie to AAA stuff. So don't fall into the trap that, oh, it's stylized, it's a choice, and I chose to look at like low resolution stuff or whatever. Like the current generation is offering a lot of possibility to do stylize in a current gen way. So don't forget about this. Actually, I have a question. Did you think about like the camera? Well, I saw that you had some angles in your concept, and I saw another angle in the prototype. Did you thought about like working on like the camera lenses that you want to replicate, for example, to convey something that gives an eye candy all the time? Like, you know, like you have, I don't know, like tilt shift photography, for example. It could fit your game because you have gigantism, this kind of stuff. So did you think about this kind of stuff or not yet?
Hi. Okay. We are aware, thanks for that. We are aware that stylized sometimes for some people mean that we are not going to invest so much time and resources into the whole environment design and all that. To avoid falling in this trap, we want to texturize every asset like by hand, to have like a very distinctive and unique look overall, made by us, not just by some tricks of the game engines. And also we mean like stylized in terms of character design, to just to say that we are not going to be so realistic, and we are not going to be cartoonish. So like to explain that we are in this point in the middle.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna follow up a little bit. Like stylize means everything. So like next time, and like you probably will work on that, but the stylization process is meaning, I don't know, like what kind of brush strokes you're gonna use for your hand painted stuff, what kind of like color palette, what kind of lighting, the shapes, etc. Like it means a lot of things. Just saying stylized is not stylized is not an artistic direction.
Okay, we'll precise more next time.
Cool.
Thanks for the remark. And about the camera, do you want to?
Hello, thank you for your feedback. About the camera, we are working on it. For now, we first try a fixed camera behind the bike that move according to the speed. But we had feedback that say that I would like to see the bike on the side and control the camera myself. So we iterate on many cameras to try. Maybe a more cinematic camera that focus on environment could be interesting for the game. It will be on the next question of the production. So thank you for your feedback, and we are taking it in count.
Hello, Steven from Ubisoft. Thank you for the presentation. I have several remarks and questions, but I think I would just I will be quick with just one remark and one question to start. First, for the bicycle control, I really liked the direction you took with the triggers, and that's really something that's needed for the game. We are on the bicycle. We want to feel the bicycle. So that's a good direction. And then for my question, you talked a lot about curiosity, but what will push the curiosity for the player? Why I will want to explore the game world? Why I want to share gossips? If I'm curious about something, it's because I want reward. As it was said earlier, gossips are like a currency. So what will push the player to explore your game? And just another, what will you offer to the player at the end of the experience out of that?
Okay, so basically all that is linked to the scrapbooking. Maybe we spend too little time on it, but basically landmarks and gossips and characters will be sort of images and things you could put in your scrapbook. So you have to choose what to put in it and how you want to remember your trip, your journey. So to finish the game, you have to complete the scrapbook. So basically everything like from tea to leaves to encounters to landmarks to gossips will be in your scrapbook. So you kind of decide how you want to remember your journey, and all the rewards are basically in the scrapbook.
Okay, thank you. Just a final things out of that. It would be great if, as a player, when I finish the game, I can share my scrapbooks with other players. Very, very great.
Yeah, we agree.
Hello, Aurélien, sound designer, Ubisoft. I'm going to talk about music. What kind of music do you want for your game? Because I see you have a composer, so I guess you want music.
No. Our sound designer is in his own Teams or Zoom, I'm not sure.
Yes, I am. Everyone hears me? Yeah, does everyone hear me clearly? I don't know. Okay. Well, I didn't really, I had some ways of thinking about it. And I was thinking about like, it's either going to be something that's going to follow really the actions of the player, and it's going to be more like discrete, very, very discrete pads and everything, or more going to be on the front and with instruments that exist like piano or guitar that suggest life in some kind of way. And with the direction that the game is taking, like it's kind of recent that we really took the path of really the game orienting to talking with people, meeting people and everything. It's not only environment and places. Maybe I'm going to focus maybe on instruments that suggest life and meeting people and everything. So something around piano or guitar, maybe inspired by compositions like Breath of the Wilds and everything.
Okay, thanks.
Mylène, you had a question?
Hello. Yes, so I'm Mylène. I'm doing marketing as a freelancer. I just wanted to say first, I agree with Cecile. Having games as references doesn't mean you have to get them in the market positioning. And here, having Zelda in Minecraft is only confusing. So you can use them, say, hey, we want to take this part of Minecraft and add it to a game. But yeah, I don't think you should put them in the market positioning. And the other question is, almost most of your presentation, you are saying like you want tranquility, cozy game, but still you have the micro stress or light stress moment. Why did you choose to add this?
Because to us, like on a bike, there's some efforts involved, like some of the simulation that is quite interesting to tackle. And getting lost to us is like part of the stroll, and you kind of get lost voluntarily to empty your mind and think of something else. But I think it's a direction, and if it's not working, well, we will switch, and it's fine.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, thanks for the presentation. Maybe this is a bit just me, but I want to give you my take on your presentation. I feel that the game would be great, but it was hard for me to fully understand your game when you were presenting it, because you were mentioning several features that can feel a bit isolated from one another, like traversal, tea making, gossip, and then at the very end you mentioned the scrapbooking, whereas this is the main driver of your game. So if I have an advice, as my colleague kind of said, it would be to start with the scrapbooking, just right after you mention your intention in terms of ambience, of feeling for the player, and just right after you give a glance of your world, because it was really hard to fully understand the experience, because you were not starting by the main driver of the game.
Thank you.
Hi, again, I'm Lucille from Quantic Dream, and I will talk about Professor Layton and the Strange Village, where you can make tea, and I was wondering how you will feel about collectibles, how you will gather your ingredients, how you will make the tea in order to make people speak.
We have a slide on the tea because there's a lot of things we are not sure, but there are some that we know. Well, we wrote like what we know at the bottom and also at the top, but at the bottom is what we don't know yet. So basically, the tea is a collectible, so that will be consumed through gossiping, and the tea that we choose to use during the gossiping session and the tea break will affect the transformation of the gossip. But we're not sure how complex we want to make it, and the how much manipulation aspect we'll find. Like because one of our first inspiration was like assemble with care, but then
we thought that the manipulation aspect took too much space in the game. So we're trying to gauge a right amount of how much space it can take and how much space we want it to take. That's all.
Thank you. Are there next questions? Yes.
Hello, Mathieu, I'm from NetEase Games. I'm curious to know how you tackle aimless exploration with short session and still want to make a game that is 5 to 7 hours, because aimless usually is something that people ask about. They like to get, they say they like to get lost, but in the end they like to get a lot of direction also. And I'm curious to know how you will handle that dichotomy, and also how you will handle the mapping for the player. Will it be full mental mapping, or will you have some kind of physical map in the scrapbook, for example, that you draw?
Concerning the mapping, I think we're not sure yet. We thought about a gossip map, which could be interesting, but we didn't want to have a real map yet. We're not sure. And the other question was how we could make an aimless stroll, like we said. And I think a lot of it is based on landmarks, and because like in Breath of the Wild, which is one of our inspiration, there's a lot of landmarks that we could see from afar, but there's always distraction on the way to guide you to other places. And I think that's what we're trying to do. Maybe it will work, and I think it might work. Steven from Ubisoft again. You talked about short sessions for your game, like 10 to 20 minutes, but also the main platform is PC. I don't think that really fits the way PC players are playing PC games. And you missed the mobile platforms. Why so? Because it's especially on mobile device, short sessions games are perfectly designed for. So I think we talked about, at least I mentioned already, like mobile aspect, but I think it could work because, as you said, like shorter sessions are quite interesting for mobile when you're like abroad, not abroad, but not at home. So yeah, it's quite interesting, and we believe that like it could be ported if the project was a real game, but it would entail some adjustments to the gameplay, like to the controllers, but also how do you mix? Because at the beginning we really wanted that manipulation aspect, like we assemble with care, which really works with the mobile aspect because it's tactile. But since it was at least pushed a little bit back until we make a decision, we are still thinking of it. Okay. Final question. Do you think that a short session like 10 or 20 minutes is relaxing? If I'm stressed for my day, I'm just going back to work, is a short session of 10 to 20 minutes is enough to relax me? To be honest, I'm not sure, but I think there are some games that you go into without really any objective. You just want to be part of a world and not do anything. And the session is basically determined by your own will. So that's why I said we could make some shorter session, because technically you have the exploration aspect on your bike, and then you have the gossip, and then you go back to exploring, and that could be like a 10 to 20 minute session, and then you could cut. You could take a break from the game. But I really believe that the game would be a great experience when playing it the whole day. But in reality, not many people have a whole day to play a video game. Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Is there a final question? I know the morning was full, so maybe that's it. I'm just checking on internet. Yes, Isaac.
Yes, just a last question coming back on the subject of the motivation of the player. I saw you put a short hike on other reference, and you know, in short hike you have this pressure about I have this call to make, so you have a lot of distractions on the way. It's really pleasurable, but there's this central tension, and I was wondering what would be your incentive in that situation, because I think the word that came the most frequently in your presentation was contrast. So contrast on sound, contrast on pressure, and what could be that thing? Maybe it's not defined yet, but if it's not, if you already have an idea about this, or maybe it's a direction you have to not have that kind of orientation, but it was, yeah, I think it could make the difference. I don't know, just wanted to have your opinion on that. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Yeah, we thought about it, but we had this intention of not having any like not extragetic, but not any external pressure to have like a sort of a quest that would guide your whole journey. So,
and also I remember we having a conversation about the experience of a stall also being in freedom of movement. So we did not wanted like a physical spatial objective for the game, which is the case in a short hike. It's like you have to make a call, but to make a call, you have to get on top of the mountain. We did not wanted to have a place to reach as a center of the game.
Okay, just maybe let me be more accurate on my question. So for me, it's like the MacGuffin that used Hitchcock. Maybe you're familiar with the notion. It's, I mean, when you're starting the movie cycle, you have this first scene in which we know that's the woman which will be killed in the first amazing scene of this movie, as is fleeing from something, and she has a lot of money in a bag. And actually, it means that you, as a spectator, you're interested in knowing what will happen. And if you look the rest of the series, it's absolutely not important. In the rest of the movie, you just have no intel, no information about what was the story behind this money. But actually, it really implied you in the story. And I think that in short hike, it's quite the same thing. I mean, in my own experience of play, it wasn't, I mean, I quite forget it, but it started the thing, and it really gripped me in. And maybe if it's lost in the way, it's not a problem. So maybe, I mean, there's maybe a middle way between being really hard on the way, saying we don't want to have a direction that leads everything, but just something to catch you in.
Yeah, thank you. We'll think about it.
So thank you. I think it was the last question or remark. Thank you all for this exchange this morning, and thanks to the team. So thanks to the team of this morning. We will have 3 more in this afternoon. So there's going to be the lunch break now. We're going to start again at 2. Thanks again to the people online. So see you then a few minutes before 2. And thanks you all for your attendance this morning.